I think this team has a chance. I mean, we've got a chance to beat Georgia. And if we do that, we're right in the middle of winning the SEC Eastern Division. It's a long way to go, but as long as you have only one conference loss and it's not to Georgia, you're in the hunt. That was long time Florida coach and Heisman Trophy winning quarterback Steve Spurrier, who was talking about the Dawgs and Gators. He is Florida's version of Kirby Smart, except he was a slightly better player. I would say significantly better player. And he is thinking that the Gators can rally and have a shot here, Ryan. They are a two touchdown underdog, slightly more than that, actually. Steve Spurrier knows a lot about this game. Is there something he's seeing here that we're not?
I think that Florida does have a shot. They haven't played a team like Georgia. They haven't played a defense like Georgia. They haven't played an offense like Georgia, really. So I just have a hard time seeing that this be the game. I think that the line for this game has been similar the last few years, hasn't it? It's been kind of like the mid-teens, roughly, I think, each time the last few years. And I think it's pretty accurate as to how this game goes. A couple touchdowns, one team doesn't typically blow out the other in this game. It is a fight. And the fans are split in half, neutral site, physical game. So I don't see this game being a blowout, but Florida, not the year, in my opinion.
Well, they certainly. It depends on which. I'll go into my whole Florida rant here right now. It depends on if they play like they did against Tennessee. I think that's the best that they played this season against South Carolina. Florida really didn't play. They played well offensively, but to give up 39 points to South Carolina, that's a real problem. I mean, that's a real. What Georgia 14 to Carolina? Is that right?
14 all in one half.
Yeah, and now it was on the road for South Carolina, so that's one thing. I think Florida, if you look at Graham Mertz, he's really played well lately. I mean, it's not all that, this guy has short, passes. Yeah, he does, but he's playing well. I mean, he's running effectively with the football. He's using it. He's running effectively or moving effectively in the pocket. He's doing a lot of things the right way. They really gashed Tennessee in the way that Kentucky and Utah gashed Florida. I mean, that's what they did to Tennessee in the run game. And I just don't. I am skeptical. The more I watched Florida, the more that I felt like Georgia was in very good position, not just to win this game, but to win it by a fair amount. And what we don't know is, first of all, Steve gets to watch a lot of Florida's practices. Maybe he's never been shy about what he really feels. Maybe he knows something that we don't know. I'm certain he does, actually. I just don't know that and he's saying they got a chance. What is the numerical value of a chance, Ryan?
For Florida here, I'd say 20.
Okay.
25. Is that, I don't know, what's your number?
So the numbers would tell you that if you are a 2-touchdown favorite or more against Georgia in the last 10 years, about once a decade Georgia loses that game. Something like that. It's not very common. My computer with the database is right over there. So why don't you take over talking about this game and I'll get you better statistics.
Yeah, well, look, I just, something I'm going to harp on that I said earlier this week is I don't think Florida's been consistent in the way they've played football. And have they hit their stride offensively the last couple of games? Yeah, I think they have in the passing game. But you're going to have to do both against Georgia. Yeah. You're going to have to do both against Georgia. And I just feel like this Georgia defense will be able to limit one of those things. Against Kentucky, they limited that part of the offense that made Kentucky's offense look like it was good. And the week before they traveled to Athens, they ran all over Florida. Georgia doesn't let that happen. And it's not even a close game. somehow Florida's found themselves being a little bit more dynamic than Kentucky at this point in the year, being able to do it both ways. Graham Mertz has never played this well, ever.
Has never what? Now
It
say
is
that
just,
again. I couldn't hear you. So
Graham Mertz has never played like this except for the last 2 games in his college career. I'm not talking about just Florida, in his career. So this, to me, this is a 2-game sample size of, him having prolific games through the air, and the second one wasn't super efficient, comparatively speaking. There's just a lot of yards and a lot
that's
of
true.
touchdowns.
That's true. So you're ready to take a
So,
turd all over his.
oh, well, yeah, a little bit, a little bit.
You're not kind of overdoing it. I mean, like what? So when you watch them play, um, there I would say I want to correct what I just said a second ago. I would say Georgia, the numbers bear out that as a 2 touchdown favorite or more. So Georgia's played as a 2 touchdown favorite or more, um, 82 times. Actually, 83 because I don't have Vanderbilt in here. 83 times they have played since 2010 as a 2 touchdown favorite. They've lost 2 of those games. One was to South Carolina in Athens, which I feel like the only reason I reference that is because it happened. And then the other was Vanderbilt. All the other games, whether you're talking about Kentucky in 2020, Florida in 2022, Tennessee in 2019, Georgia Tech in 2019, Tennessee in 18, Arkansas State in 19, whatever, Louisiana in 2010. Georgia won all those games. They won all of them. They didn't necessarily cover. So that's the part to me that I think, that's the part for me that's tricky. Now, when you watch Florida, I love the comments where people come on and start talking about how the line is just this, that. Listen, man, I get all that. I don't need to like the refresher course in what the line means. It is an indicator. It is a barometer. It doesn't, you got to go play. But
the line is just what certain people think.
right.
I mean,
but it is a leading indicator. I mean, if you're a 30-point dog going into a game, you're in trouble. I'm just going to say that right now. I mean, like 98 to 99% of the time, you're in very, serious dire straits. You're not going to, you're not going to be lounging around an eco poly chair. I'm going right to it, Ryan. Check it out. These bundles, by the way, this ocean view, this is what our friends down there, they're giving you bundles. They're giving you sets of things, completely 20-year warranty, completely made with plastic, made in the heart of Georgia. Make sure you're checking it out. Christmas is right around the corner. If you have a beach house, you can customize the colors. You can get 2 tones. It doesn't necessarily have to be the things that we're looking at right here. It can be any number of sets or chairs, or like this farmhouse table. We use this at Dog Post. This is something that we use, so take advantage of that today. When you watch the Gators, man, if they don't run, they're in real trouble. That goes to everybody. I said Travis Etienne. Etienne is very good though, and now he's problem. I think
he is. They're gonna have to run well, I think, to play Georgia to balance this out. I just have a hard time seeing them drop back there and torch Georgia. And I think good players make good plays against the Georgia defense, and Florida's got them. Right, Ricky Pearsall,
number 1, the receiver.
Dude's gonna make some plays.
Yeah,
it's gonna happen. Etienne's gonna make a couple plays. Ray Davis made a couple plays, so it's gonna happen. I think the biggest thing right now for Georgia, dude, they're even in the turnover margin. They're even right now. It's 0.
Now, what do you say? Why does that? Finish the thought though. What does that mean?
Florida, if they lose that battle against Florida and Florida's playing well, Georgia can find themselves in some real trouble. And that's kind of been the story of this year. Those turnovers have been, I think, a defining factor for the way they've looked, quote unquote. Not necessarily how good the team actually is.
Well, I don't disagree with that exact comment. When you look at now, turnover margin can be a little bit like Ohio State is at 0, Georgia is at 0. I mean, those are 2 of the top 5 teams in the country are at 0. I'm trying to think of, I would imagine Michigan with the schedule they played is way up there, which they are. They're number 9, and then let's just say who else is really,
You can
Florida
choose.
State.
You can pick and choose stats. And I agree that sometimes it don't always mean something, but I do think it kind of means something with Georgia, and we've watched enough to know that turnovers have been a big part of the reason why these games have gone the way they have. And there are fewer possessions than there were before. If it's the same conversation around Kentucky, Georgia did handle them though. But if Florida can get it going a little bit and they can get the ball rolling a little bit and start moving down the field, a couple turnovers happen. All of a sudden, Georgia could be down 14-7 heading into the second quarter, something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they could be. That's totally correct. And the other thing is too, with all of that said, for years I was saying, for decades really, Georgia is a program that's going to win national championships. It's going to happen. All of this will correct itself, like going from 1980 to 2021 without winning a national championship. Like that was strange. And now we're seeing outliers all of a sudden. We're seeing Georgia win back to back, possibly 3. You could see a scenario where Georgia wins, I don't know, 4 of 9 or 4 of 11 in national championships. I say this. Georgia's at 0 for turnovers. I think that's low. I think they will probably correct that in the coming weeks, although they're playing better teams. Florida's at -2. So it's not like Florida, this can go wrong for Florida as well. I mean, you don't really want to be in that position if you're the Florida Gators, where you're depending on turnovers to win the game. I will say that I think that they do need turnovers, and I'll add this before I throw it back to you. Do you know what Georgia's final turnover margin was for last year? I mean, I'm not downplaying turnovers. Go ahead.
I haven't looked. I'm gonna guess +8.
+1.
+1.
Yeah, +1. Do you know who led the country last year in turnovers?
Maybe the stat doesn't mean as much as I thought.
No, it does. It does mean stuff in a particular game. Do you know who? What's that?
What was your question? I'm sorry.
Who do you think was number 1 last year in turnover margin nationally?
Oh, was it like Iowa or something?
It was Southern California. They were +22. Now they were a pretty good team, but they didn't win their league. So, and Florida last year was +10. So turnover margin does matter.
But USC probably never turned the ball over. I mean, like 3 Caleb Williams interceptions and a couple fumbles?
Year?
Yeah. I mean,
they turned it over. They had 5 interceptions. They only lost turnover 7 times, and they gained 29 turnovers. Now, you don't think that that's a lot. But I do think what Steve, in wrapping this thing up, I think Steve, we don't think Steve is wrong. And he's not saying Florida's going to win. He says they've got a chance. And you say your numerical value of that is 20%?
20%.
I think that's a little high, but that's me. Y'all tell me what you think down below.